Hey guys, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Andre Seegers, and today we're joined by Derek Binder to discuss the October overview trailer for Super Mario 3D World and everything new that was shown off. And with that, let's get started. Alright Derek, so Nintendo just, showed off a brand new trailer for Super Mario 3D World, as well as, giving a ton of interviews about the game. So I thought we'd just, get together and discuss our thoughts on everything that's come out so far. So the new trailer basically, a lot of it is just elaboration on what we've seen before, new levels, some new mechanics, and actually some new power-ups, which is pretty impressive considering the game already has a lot of power-ups. So, I guess, right now, what's your surface level impression, based on the new trailer, and, I guess the analysis we put together for the game?
Basically, I'm just looking forward to actually playing the game. It's, the more I see of it, the more I like. I'm very curious to get my hands on it and see for myself how well it plays. I know just from a little bit I played at E3, it plays great, but I want to get my hands on the full experience, see all these different things, and see what it has to offer. And I like that they're going with a bit more variety. Because you showed new gameplay concepts, and heck, the one you commented about almost right away, the Captain Toad Tour guidance thing, turned out to be right. It's just a new way to play Mario, and I like that they're trying new things here.
Dude, I was so happy to discover that I completely freaking nailed that Toad Captain thing in the first analysis. Like, I was going off a 3-second clip, and I nailed everything. Like, the fact he wouldn't be able to jump, it was a...
In fact, I had to collect all the stars.
Right. So, yeah, not to toot my own horn, but... yeah, no, it's interesting just how diverse this game appears. Like, because when they first showed it off, it looked like a completely by-the-book, Mario game, really,
It looked like, oh, good, they took 3D Land and put it on the Wii U.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, that is what it looked like.
And then added in Peach and Luigi and all them.
Yeah, which I mean, to be fair, was cool, but that by itself doesn't add that much. But now we can see that, on top of that, these levels just have a ton of different ways, or a ton of different mechanics between them. There's different power-ups, there's level-specific mechanics, of course, like there's the sea creature level, of course, which, Plessy, I believe is her name now.
Yeah, Plessy.
Which we saw earlier, but, that's just one, but, back then it seemed like the only new mechanic, and now we have tons of them,
And it's this great mixture of taking some classic concepts and updating them in new ways. It's not just like relying on nostalgia, it's taking the nostalgia and updating it. One of the best examples is of course, taking Karibo's shoe and turning it into Karibo's ice skate. And it's that sort of thing, the whole tossing thing, just, there's a lot of old concepts here done in new ways, or updated in new ways, that makes it seem like they're not just doing the new Super Mario Brothers method of just doing like nostalgia.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Granted, that's still a huge part of it.
Oh yeah, it's always going to be a huge part of it with Mario anymore.
Yeah, it's always a balance, and it seems like they found a really good balance this time around. As opposed to, actually, it's an interesting point that you bring up, because one of my, I wouldn't say it was a problem I had with Mario Sunshine, but Mario Sunshine just felt like a really odd game, and part of that was because there was actually very little based in Mario's history there. There were some enemies that looked similar to classic enemies, but they were still very much their own thing. There were like no Goombas or Koopa Troopas there or anything.
Exactly, I was just about to mention that, is that it's that odd game that there's no Goombas, and that just seems weird.
So yeah, the whole game, so the fact that, it already had these pretty unusual mechanics for a Mario game, being like, the Flood Water Pack. And then you have everything else is, a whole new world with very little, based in Mario's universe. It just lent it a weird feeling. So yeah, it seems like Nintendo's learned from that, and they've now learned how to, strike a balance. Because even Mario Galaxy, was completely out there for a Mario game concept, taking place entirely in space, basically. And yet it felt like a Mario game through and through.
It's so different, but because of that difference and sticking true to its heritage, it's probably one of my favorite Mario games of all time.
Getting back to what you said about the Karibo's shoe, I didn't even make that connection, actually, because I was exhausted and was putting together that analysis with the ice skates. Because I did point out that in order to get the ice skates, you have to take out a Goomba. The Goomba's riding in them. And yeah, I didn't even make the connection that that is just like his shoe from Mario 3. And that is a really cool throwback. So now on top of seeing more of the ice skate, we also get to see another mode of transportation in the game, being the Koopa Shells. And we actually saw a screenshot of that, last week, I think.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure if that was an item you pick up or if it was its own power-up. And now it seems to be kind of like a mixture of the two, where you get the Koopa Shells from the Koopas, and then you can just hop inside and ride around.
Which is kind of an awesome concept.
it's awesome.
It's also morbid.
Really horrible. It's really morbid. He's like just stealing these Koopa Shells, like not only like their clothing, it's like their home too. Like he's taking everything these Koopa Troopas know about their life, and he's wearing it as his as his skin.
The game has an odd parallel with Invasion of the Body Snatchers, with Mario taking the role of the Body Snatchers, because he's taking the the Koopa Shells, he's taking the body of Goombas. Like, what if when you beat Bowser, he just takes his shell and just like, okay, mine now.
Oh yeah, that'd be awesome if you could just ride around the Bowser shell. So I'm conflicted on this because it looks like it's basically the power-up from New Super Mario Brothers on the DS, which was the blue shell item, I believe.
Yes.
The blue shell power-up. And I hated it in that game because it just
it wasn't any fun to me.
No, it wasn't any fun. It was just like a death trap. Like in those games you were running all the time, but whenever you ran to that power-up, you would turn into a shell, and you would just like, for me at least, I would just go craning off ledges all the time. And I just didn't find it to be a fun thing. So that's why I'm hesitant about it basically being back here, except being now an item instead of an actual power-up. With that said, it looks like it controls a lot better here.
I think you have more direct control over when you go into the shell and when you don't, because he runs around with it in his hands for a while.
Right.
And it seems like he makes a conscious choice to go into into the shell.
And I think that's basically that should fix the problem, actually.
Yeah, pretty much.
If you're just pressing a button to hop in and out, that would work so much better. And it looks like, I think too, being in the 3D space may be better for it as well. And I did point out in the analysis, because again I was just freaking exhausted. You can see that level where we see it being the desert or the sand level or the beach was designed with it in mind, like with the gentle slopes, like the sand dunes basically.
Gentle slopes, and that one little section with all the question blocks and the inside where you can just slide into
just
there
bounce
and
around.
Bounce. Yeah, exactly.
Yep,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, it's definitely made with that in mind. Yeah, it's interesting how they're sort of taking these concepts and really making them work, and it's interesting how they're like changing up some things. Like it struck me as interesting that the Koopas were once again walking on 2 legs rather than 4 legs like they were in Super Mario Galaxy. That is an unusual change. That actually harkens back to Super Mario 3D Land, which is when they first made that change. So they've gone back and forth on that because they started off as quadrupeds, then they became bipeds. Super Mario World they became bipeds.
Right. And then they remained that way, as far as I know, until Mario Galaxy, when they went back to being the walk around kind. Which I wonder if they did that because of the camera being often overhead. So maybe they wanted it to, make it clear that these are Koopa Troopas, or maybe they thought they were more visible with the overhead camera.
That could be, and I also interpret it as a slightly different way, because with Super Mario Galaxy, with them being quadrupeds, that was the same as Super Mario 3 and all those other the other NES games, and Mario Galaxy had a lot of throwbacks to those games. I'm wondering, since they're bipeds in 3D World, if there'll be more throwbacks to Super Mario World.
Yeah, well, we kind of the fact that you can kick the Koopa Shells out of their the Koopas out of their shell is itself a throwback to Mario World, where the same thing happened. And in fact, one of the stamps I saw in one of the trailers, but apparently the different trailers had different stamps shown in them. One of them showed a Mario World style. One of the stamps was of a Mario World style Koopa, getting kicked out of his shell. They were very distinct back then compared to now, and so I think they are going for some intentional throwbacks. Like, it really does seem like they're referencing almost every Mario game in some way here.
Sunshine will show up. in some way. The Piantas.
Yeah. Oh God, I would not mind if they skip that skip that element. Yeah, the Piantas haven't grown on me at all.
They were just always sort of weird. I never thought about them too closely, to be honest.
Yeah. So, in addition to the Koopa Shell, there's a few other power-ups we see. You know, we get the better look at the Goomba Hat, as you mentioned. And we already knew how it worked, basically, but now we can see, you know, you do get it from the Goombas. It looks like you're basically decapitating the Goombas and wearing its head around.
I know, they make a point of it, like, coming out of a puff of smoke.
Right.
But it's still, like, it happens so quick, it's hard not to think it's decapitation.
Yeah, right? Especially because that's all a Goomba is, really. Like, it's just their head, so, you know, and his feet. So you're just wearing his body around.
Yeah, exactly.
And we can see, you know, once you get it, like, the other Goomba forgets about you immediately. He's like, oh, that wasn't Mario just a second ago. This is clearly a Goomba.
Yeah. I think it just denotes their intelligence.
Yeah, it doesn't speak too highly of it. So I'm interested to see where all they're going with that idea, because I don't know, like, because Goombas are hard to avoid by themselves, really. Like, you jump on they're the easiest enemy to deal with typically. So I wonder if it applies to every enemy, though. I mean, I'm guessing it does. I'm guessing every enemy just treats you as one of their own. So I'm wondering.
That would make the most sense.
Yeah. So I'm not entirely sure how exactly they're going to incorporate that into the gameplay, especially if it's going to show up, you know, more than once. Like, I wonder, do you have to act in a stealth-like manner, maybe? Like, do you have to be careful that you don't, like, jump around? Because Mario, you know, Goombas can't jump. So...
it does make you wonder, because they show quite clearly that you're still able to kill them.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's not like you have some sort of limitations where these guys can't be taken out and you have to sneak by them.
Right.
Mario clearly takes one out and takes its body and it disappears. And... it makes me think that you're right with the whole other enemies we fooled too, because Goombas aren't threatening.
No, not so much.
I don't need to hide from them. Just let me stomp on them and I'll, you know, be on my way.
Now, although Goombas aren't normally threatening, there is one of the clips in the trailer that shows huge ones, except they're the Super Mario World variety. What's their name for them? Do you remember?
Yes, they are Kuriban.
Kuriban, yeah.
That's their Japanese name. We never got a distinction between them in the US.
So yeah, so we can see that there will be big versions of these Goombas at least occasionally, which I inferred meaning there'll probably be more bigger characters in the game too. At the least, I'm guessing Koopa Troopas, because that's what Super Mario Brothers or New Super Mario Brothers U did. But the way Mario takes them on is with the Mega Mushroom. Which I mentioned the analysis is the first time we see it in a in a 3D Mario game, which is kind of true technically. But although as people reminded me in the comments, we did see something just like a Mega Mushroom first in Super Mario Brothers or Super Mario 64 DS. But I think it was called like a Super Mushroom back then.
Oh, okay.
But
I never actually played that game, so I have no idea.
So, I like the Mega Mushroom. I've never ever really cared at all about. I actually found it to be like a really boring power-up, because it's just basically a star, except one that requires even less skill. But with a star, you still have to like time your jumps to make sure you don't fall into a hole. With the Mega Mushroom, like you're completely invincible. You can't fall down holes really. Like, you know, you can just destroy all objects. You don't have to jump through anything. You just run through things. And so, like, I don't even care that's back, really. Like, it doesn't seem that interesting to me.
I kind of hope that they'll be doing something a little bit more interesting with it, and the giant-sized enemies kind of helps that hope.
Right.
Because I felt the same way as you. It wasn't even so much that I enjoyed the novelty of being able to just tear through a level, destroying everything in my path. But then I realized I could cut off, like, pipes that I could go down in and get like secrets and stuff, so it made me like, I don't really want to use it because I want to get all these secrets.
Right.
And I got that same, I had that same exact fear in the trailer when I saw him break away a pipe. I'm like, no!
No, the secrets! Now, another new power-up they showed off was the light box, which is interesting in that it allows you to murder ghosts.
Always helpful.
Right? Especially with those big boos, which we actually see him destroy in the trailer. So yeah, so the light box is interesting, because it looks like first off, it looks like they're making this wearing box thing like a bigger focal point in this game. So we had the propeller hat before, and then we had coin blocks before, and those are both back here. And now, there's the cannon box, which we've pointed out before, and then now the light box, which acts as a flashlight as well, and as I mentioned, doubles as killing ghosts. So I'm not quite sure what all uses they're going to have for that, though.
It seems very situational, sort of like ghost house type thing, or maybe like go into a cave and have it be completely dark.
Yeah.
And have it go around that way, which I think would be a very interesting concept for a level, is those classic dark cave levels from 2D Mario games, and just make it in 3D, and I think the challenge would be even greater there. I kind of like the idea of having a completely black level and using those things to light up the level, not just use them to kill ghosts, because we've been able to kill ghosts with the power, invincibility stars before.
That's true.
Just makes me wonder what this light's made of, because Luigi could certainly use it for Luigi's Mansion.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. That would have made his life so much easier.
Yeah, seriously.
What's Egad doing dicking around with those vacuums and poor flashlights? He just needs one of these, and
yeah, exactly.
Set to go. Yeah, and then so beyond that, there's another power up we see, and it's the white Tanooki suit is back. Which I guess, for the more hardcore gamer, it's something they probably won't deal with at all. I know I avoid them whenever possible.
Same here.
But it's something, if you played the 3D Land or I think New Super Mario Bros. 2, it appears when you die too many times, and basically you can use it optionally to become invincible and also fly as much as you want, at least in the 2D games. I don't think that worked in the 3D one. But yeah, I guess it's good to see that back. That's nothing.
I can see it being very helpful, especially with the multiplayer, and especially since it's shared lives this time.
That's true.
So, like, one player keeps having trouble and dying or causing others to die or something like that, and that one player just needs a little extra help to get through. So you give them the white Tanooki suit and get through the level. I have no problem with it being there. It's since they make it optional, it's almost like a badge of dishonor if you actually have it show up.
Well, and the game even has an incentive to not use it, because at least for the previous games, like that, in order to get all this, like the file screen stars, you had to beat all the levels without using that item.
Yeah, it's a badge of shame.
Yes, exactly. I think what is interesting though about it, I think it's actually a smart way of making it so anyone can get through these levels. But it's interesting because it seems to be coming at the expense of the Super Guide. In fact, do you even remember the Super Guide?
I remember the name of it. I don't remember using it at all, or what it did, or anything like that.
So it first appeared in New Super Mario Bros. Wii, and it was basically when you died too many times, Luigi would just play through the level for you, and it was a mechanic that carried through in Donkey Kong Country Returns. But it's something that's kind of fallen by the wayside, it seems, in favor of this new mechanic. Which instead of having which I think makes a ton of sense, because basically the game would just play itself for you until you got past the level, the part you were stuck at. Whereas now this allows you to actually play through, the game still,
and sort of figure out the level on your own.
Yeah, just with with a handicap basically. So I think it's a smarter way of going about it, and probably an easier way for Nintendo to go about it too, because they don't have to, have someone play through every level, record that, and have that, put into the game. Now it's just another power up that, basically makes you invincible. So.
Yeah, I know, it's a good concept.
All right, well, something else we see more of in the trailer is the world map. The trailer itself shows off World 2, and then with the Nintendo Minute footage, we can see World 3 as well. And we see a few more interesting things. So, as I point on the analysis, it looks like the world's actually each world's kind of broken up into these segments. The first world has like a bridge that connects the two islands, and the second world has a ramp that connects a raised portion. And I saw recently a screenshot came out of World 1 from before the bridge. It confirms that the bridge only appears later on. So yeah, score another point for me. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So it looks like it looks like the world's maybe more open-ended in how you can go about, in the level progression, it seems. Yet still kind of limiting where you can go until you finish all the levels up to a certain point.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. The only thing that makes me question that it might not have that completely open progression is the fact that it still has that gold line going pathway. So maybe it might be a bit more like the classics, where you'll have to do this level and then it splits in two and you can do either of those, and it continues on, and then you can do that way. That way you can skip certain levels, or that sort of thing.
Well,
so it might be a little bit of both. Yeah.
And adding to that is in the World 3 footage, we can see each world so far has had an enemy on the world map. And we can see the name of the World 3 enemy, which is a Magic Koopa, and it was called like Magic Koopa's Barricade or something, or I forget exactly, but something along those lines. Which of course is an obstruction, which makes it sound like you may have to, at the least beat those enemies in order to proceed further into the world, and which lends credence to the idea you may have to beat those levels too. So I'm still curious how exactly those enemies are going to work.
Because you see enemies like that, and you think of like the simple enemy hordes, like in like the new Super Mario Brothers game, where you just collect a few like toad heads, and then you go on, or take out all the Goombas, no problem. But the enemies we've seen so far tend to be a bit more challenging, like than Goombas and whatnot, because we have like a Charge and Chuck. World 2 was what was that one again?
Goomba.
Oh, Goomba. There goes that theory.
maybe it's a big Goomba though. Maybe he's a huge giant Goomba.
Maybe it's the giant Goombas that split into smaller Goombas, and then you just have this room full of Goombas. That's just a thing to get through. But it's the same concept. Is that I have a thing to make it a little bit more challenging.
No, I'm pretty sure you're right. Especially given that these enemies don't appear to roam around like in past games. So they're like fixed structures basically. And then it seems like another level, or another concept that's returning from 3D Land, is the Mystery House concept, where you'd have these like single challenge levels of 10 seconds. Except this time it sounds like there's many of them strung together, according to an interview I saw recently. So basically, you would now, when you enter one of these mystery houses in the world, there's a 10-second challenge, but there's several more after that too. So it sounds like they are basically just ramping up everything. So I wouldn't be surprised if those enemies are a lot harder than in past games.
I hope so. I always like a good challenge in my Mario games.
So that covers most of the new gameplay mechanics themselves in the game. But we do see some new online functionality for this game. Unfortunately, we don't get any true online yet, but they are incorporating Miiverse in some interesting ways. And part of that is it looks like, in New Super Mario Bros. U, when you're exploring the world map, you can see little pop-ups from people, like giving thoughts on the level. And it looks like that returns this time too, but this time there's actual Miis on the map. Except that it appears they take on the form of the Sprixie citizens or whatever, because they have like little wings on their back.
Yeah.
Which I forgot to point on the analysis, but that's because it was 5 a.m. and I got tired of pointing out stuff. So I think that's kind of a cool way of going about it, like a little bit personifying those meme messages even more so than just having them be like an abstract pop-up on the map.
And they also act as ghosts, showing like people running through the level, and like I said, point out this secret, like, oh, this person went down here. I'll check out down here. Hey, there's a green star.
So I'm kind of torn on that. I mean, I know it's completely optional, and I feel like I would enjoy the game more the first time through not having that. Then replaying is when I would want to see those replays, and maybe they only pop up on replays too. We don't know. But yeah, I want to discover those things for myself the first time through, and not necessarily discover something just because I saw someone else do it, right?
Yeah, that's usually how I go about it too. Other people aren't quite that way, so it's nice to have the option. But I can also see people like, oh, I'm so frustrated with this one. Please, somebody give me a Miiverse thing so I can find out where this is.
That kind of is another smart way of going, around the whole super guide thing, just having other people do it for you.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, I do like the idea of being able to race other people too. like trying to beat that ghost me and seeing.
Yeah, see, that's what I would end up doing, is trying to get through the level before them.
Right. Yeah. Well, do you have any final thoughts, Derek, at all on everything we've seen so far, or anything you want to touch on that we haven't?
The only thing I can think of is I'm very happy to see that in the one screen we saw that it does support the Pro Controller.
Right.
For other players. Because at E3 we had to use the Wii Remote on the side. And I really hate using D-pad on 3D games anymore. So just seeing it have the Pro Controller support, it's like, oh, thank God. So really happy about that. Otherwise, I'm once again just really excited for the game.
Yeah, and the more I see of it, the more I want to play it, and I'm jealous that you're the one who'll be playing it for us.
Hey, you get Zelda. I think it's a fair trade-off.
Yeah, that's true. I am looking forward to Zelda too. It's unfortunate to put us in this position where They have 2 awesome games coming out on the same day.
Yep. One on 3DS, one on Wii U.
So cruel, so cruel.
It really is.
Speaking of Zelda, though, I will be playing that game on Tuesday because Nintendo's having an event that I'll be going to. So
yeah, you're lucky. Yes,
I know. So make sure to stay tuned to that, everyone. And with that, I think we're done discussing Mario because we're not even talking about it anymore. So thanks, guys, for watching, and of course, thanks, Derek, for joining us here. If you like this video, make sure to follow us on Twist. I was gonna combine them, like Twistbook.
No, it's Twister.
Twister on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. There are links in the description below. They'll take you right there. And just keep an eye on GameXplain.com for more on this game and other things gaming as well. All right, thanks, guys. Bye.